A Satanist is arrested in Kansas City after a Catholic hero stymies his stupid black mass. The UK is instituting a two-tier system of justice that punishes white men more harshly than everyone else for the exact same crimes. And global trade as we know it might come to an end in 2 days. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. We have got my friend Lila Rose coming on the show to talk about even better news. It seems like the Trump administration, it's just W after W after W. There's even better news coming out of education than you have probably read about all throughout the United States. We'll get to that in a little bit. First, I'm told, you know that I've sold more Smells and Bells candles than maybe any candle maker ever has in the history of wax. Well, my friend Mr. Walsh is apparently trying to beat my my candle making here by selling his goat candle. So I don't know why you would want your home to smell like a goat. I have the Smells and Bells candle. It makes your home smell a lot better. So head on over. There you go. Look at that. It's kind of nice, huh? Head on over to thecandleclub.com/Michael today. That was spooky. Also, I want to tell you about Allegiance Flag Supply. Go to showallegiance.com, enter promo code Knowles. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America that was made right here in America by the good folks at Allegiance Flag Supply. That's the first thought that crosses my mind when I see this beautiful, hand-sewn American flag flying, not just in one spot. You know, I've told you this. I've flown for many years at a flag in the back of my car, in my windshield. But then I also have an Allegiance flag for the front of my house. I also have an Allegiance flag in my office. I also have an Allegiance flag in my studio. I love these flags, okay? Man, there's no better way to celebrate America's golden age than by getting a beautiful hand-sewn flag from America to represent America. Really important, okay? Because the American flag has been discouraged in recent years, all right? And other flags have risen to take their place. Well, not anymore. Fly your American flag right now, handcrafted in Charleston, South Carolina. Use promo code Knowles. You will get free shipping right now. Go to showallegiance.com. Use code Knowles. Get their other stuff too. Their leather flag coasters, their flag keychains. Was that one in particular that my kids love? Go get all of it. Showallegiance.com. Code Knowles at checkout for American flags made the American way. That was a really great transition, by the way, to this story, which is about Catholics just totally destroying Satanists in Kansas City. So for weeks now, we've had Satanists bragging about how they're going to hold a black mass. And a black mass is this satanic mockery of the Holy Mass, which the Holy Mass we've had for 2,000 years. And they said they're going to do it, and they're going to do it at the Kansas City Statehouse. And they're going to stand this as, public property, and it's their exercise of their First Amendment. And it really tests the limits of liberalism, of this idea that free speech means, the supposed right to mock God on public property, the notion that the American Republic is predicated on a totally secular, downright atheistic understanding of the world, all of which is anti-historical. It's not true, but this is what the libs have been pushing. So these big jerks show up and they start to hold their black mass. Now, the rub with the black mass is, in order to do it, they need something that they do not possess, namely the consecrated host. So in a Holy Mass, you have the Blessed Sacrament at the center of the Mass, the communion wafer, which the priest consecrates, and it becomes the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ. The Satanists in the Black Mass steal the Eucharist and then desecrate it. That's the centerpiece of the Satanic Black Mass. So the rumor was that they had stolen a consecrated host. Now, The consecrated host is not their property. The consecrated host is something that the Catholic Church possesses. You're not allowed to just go up and take one and go do whatever you wish with it. So the question at hand is, did they actually get the consecrated host? Did they steal the host from the Catholic Church? And they said, according to the reporting, the Satanists admitted under oath that they did not steal a consecrated host. But Satanists would never lie, right? Like, you'd never, there's no chance that people who worship the devil would ever lie. So in any case, whether it were merely symbolic or whether they actually did the thing that Satanists do, which is to steal a consecrated host and desecrate it, in any case, Catholics were rather upset about this. And as this wacko decides that he's going to throw the host on the ground, which, if it's consecrated, we believe is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of our Lord Jesus Christ, and which the Satanist seems to believe as well, because the actual force of desecrating the host comes from its consecration, comes from the fact that he is actually stomping on God. As he does this, a Catholic hero in Kansas City dives on it and eats the host, that is, receives the Eucharist so that the Satanists couldn't desecrate it. There he is. As he starts stomping on it, this guy dives down. It's kind of hard to see on the camera angle. And then they start, this guy, so the Satanist then starts, he screams assault, and then starts assaulting the guy. So it sounds like he's saying, I'm being assaulted, but he yells assault almost as an imperative. Hey, let's assault this guy. Which again makes me believe this was a consecrated host. This is something that is very, very valuable to Christians, to people who fear God, and to people who hate God. But this is something that clearly has real value. And then the cops intervene, and then these weirdos get arrested, which is great. I think, as far as I'm concerned, pretty much all the Satanists could be arrested. I wouldn't bat an eyelash about it. What is this about? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Why are the Catholics so offended? Why is this a national news story? Because it gets to a real question about what America is. Are we this totally secular place, founded in a notion of liberty that means that we can do whatever we please, whenever we want to do it, no matter how disordered, no matter how antisocial, no matter how downright evil? Or is America a Christian country that actually does have limits? We have physical limits, like the border around our country. We have limits to speech that have always existed from the very founding of our country, from before the founding era, going back into the 17th century when the first settlers got here. Are there rules of decorum? Are certain views privileged and certain views less privileged in the public square? You can have a Christian display in the public square. Maybe you don't have the Satanist display. What is it? I know the modern libs would say that latter view is absolutely horrible, antithetical to America. But just as a matter of history, the latter view is the one that is correct. We're a Christian country. Just go back and read the writings of virtually any of the men who built our country, from the Mayflower, which is a great cigar company, all the way up through the late 18th century, all the way up through modern times. It was in the mid-20th century that we added one nation under God to our Pledge of Allegiance. We have God on our money. We've had our God on our money for a long time. We've had In God We Trust in our national anthem for almost 200 years now. It's a Christian country, and we don't do this. We don't tolerate this stuff. Notice also, just one little observation on this. One last little observation. These guys always attack Catholicism. It's the Black Mass. It's a mockery of the Catholic Mass. It's not a mockery of some Methodist service. It's not a mockery of the electric guitar service of a non-denominational church. They're always mocking the Catholics. Even in Hollywood movies, the depictions of religion, when you see depictions of Christianity, it's always the confessional with a priest, even though America isn't particularly Catholic. Just note it. To me, this is a good argument for God and God's church. I know the secularists are going to be looking at this display, and they're going to say, what a bunch of wackos. The atheists are going to look at this and say, two groups of lunatics fighting over their imaginary friend. That's what they think when they see people wrestling over a consecrated host on the steps of the Kansas City Capitol. But I was an atheist for a long time. I was a secularist for a while too. But especially now, as we're having deeper conversations about our polity, about our society, about the eternal things, as the fashionable new atheism of the 2000s fades away, and we're really starting to talk about the eternal questions again in a serious way, maybe ask yourself if there is some legitimate reason that these groups are coming to blows over something that you think is a cracker. Maybe when the Satanists and the Christians agree on the significance of something, maybe they have a point. Maybe it's worth paying attention. We are seeing increasingly brazen attacks on God from the left. Georgia State Representative Darshun Kendrick just explicitly attacked God while protesting a pro-life bill. So this woman, I think it's a woman, I don't know the gender of the name Darshun, D'Ar'Shun, but I think it looks like a woman, says, America and Georgia are not a theocracy. I think she means theocracy. She added a small little H in there. And then says, your God is not everyone's God. Okay. Yes, he is, first of all. But second of all, the liberals don't understand the meaning of the word theocracy. A theocracy is government by clerics, by religious clerics. That's not what America is. That's not what anybody wants America to be. However, there's a huge gap. There's a lot of room between theocracy and atheist government. Okay? There's a huge gap because in the middle, there are people who are not clerics who can run the government who nevertheless have religious views. And they could have Christian views, they could have Jewish views, they could have Muslim views, they could have Zoroastrian views. But they recognize that religion is what human conflict ultimately comes down to, and that informs their view of the law, which necessarily is the case. That's true even for the atheists who hate God. Their moral views have to come from somewhere. So they don't know what theocracy is, but then furthermore, they also don't know what is meant by God, because they think that you can have a society just in a vacuum. So you take God out of it, and then we're all just neutral. But that's not really how it works. There are really just three options. The options are a society based on the idea that there is God, that there is one God, Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth, and His Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, and the Holy Spirit. And, well, I don't need to recite the whole Nicene Creed, but one God who Christians believe are three persons in one divine unity. That's one idea. Then there is paganism, the notion that there are many gods, the sun god, the sea god, the earth god, the whatever god. And then there is atheism, the notion that there is no God. And where does everything come from? Where does meaning come from? Where does morality come from? Why do we have a law? What is human? We don't know. But those are the only options, and you have to pick one of them. So in America, as an historical matter, we've been a Christian country. We're a country based on the notion that there is one God. And we are made in the image of God. And that creates a kind of society. There are plenty of other polities that are pagan societies. We're not that. The libs want to turn us into the third version, which is that there's no God. But they want to pretend. I don't even mind so much that they're offering this as an alternative. They say, we hate Christian society. We want to become an atheist society. Though in practice, they really want to be a pagan society because they want to sacrifice babies to the climate gods and all that kind of stuff. But they're not aware of that. So I wouldn't even mind it so much if they just came out and said, yeah, we want an atheist society. But it's alternately the ignorance and the deceit that we're just going to have a neutral society, that the atheist society is just totally neutral for everyone. That's not it. There are three options. You get to pick one. Which society do you want to live in? The Christian society, the pagan society, or the atheist society? I think you want to live in the Christian one. And as I've said for some years now, if you think Christian nationalism is bad, just wait until you see unchristian nationalism. Not good. Not very cozy. I want to tell you about Cozy Earth. Go to cozyearth.com. Use code Knowles, Knowles. If you are tired of tossing and turning after reading those late night news headlines that never seem to stop, Cozy Earth's incredibly soft temperature regulating bedding is the antidote you need. I was thinking actually just this morning how much I adore my bedding. And now for me, I would just get one set of sheets and then I'd be good forever, like in my bachelor days. Did I have multiple sets of sheets? I don't think so. But sweet little Elisa, she likes to change them every now and again, launder them. And that means that you need to stock up on your Cozy Earth. It means that I need to stock up on even more Cozy Earth than I already have, and I have a lot of it. Getting quality sleep doesn't just feel amazing. It transforms your day. It leaves you refreshed, ready to dive into the day's demands. Experience true rest with Cozy Earth's premium bamboo collection. It's just unbelievable, this stuff. Really, really good. When I was a bachelor, I slept on, basically, plastic paper or something. I got always the cheapest sheets. It makes such a difference. Right now, go to CozyEarth.com. Use my exclusive code Knowles for up to 40% off Cozy Earth's best-selling sheets, towels, pajamas, and more. CozyEarth.com, code Knowles. If you get a post-purchase survey, tell them you heard about Cozy Earth right here. Really toxic stuff coming from the Democrats. Defending black masses, making fun of God as an elected official. It's just not... That's not going to play in Peoria. You don't need to take my word for it. Even Gavin Newsom, who is one of the leading contenders for the Democrat nomination for president next cycle, he says the Democrat brand is toxic.
These guys are crushing us. The Democratic brand is toxic right now. We had a high water mark 2 weeks ago, and that was a CNN poll at 29% favorability. It's dropped in the NBC poll down to 27%. It's one thing to make noise, but you also have to make sense. And I think with this podcast and having the opportunity to dialogue with people I disagree with, it's an opportunity to try to find common ground and not take cheap shots. I'm not looking to put a spoke in the wheel of or at least a crowbar in the spokes of their wheel to trip them up, to your point. And I think it's important. Democrats, we tend to be a little more judgmental than we should be. This notion of cancel culture, you've been living it. You've been on the receiving end of it for years and years and years. That's real. And Democrats need to own up to that.
Okay, so this is the clearest sign yet of something that I at least was calling some weeks ago. But I think a number of other people figured it out too. Newsom is having his Sister Soldier moment. He's having his big pivot here. He's disavowing the far left of his party, and he's going to position himself as the centrist for the presidential cycle. Now, it's kind of funny because Newsom has been on the bleeding edge of the left side of his party for decades at this point. He was officiating so-called gay weddings in 2004 when that was explicitly outlawed by federal law. Newsom he allowed one of his cities to burn to the ground because of his extreme policies. He's he used the word Latinx when even members of the Democrat Party were making fun of it. He's pro transgenderism, all this kind of stuff. So why the pivot? Because he sees which way the winds are blowing. If you want to know how to run a government, don't ask Gavin Newsom. But if you want to know how to win an election, the guy's actually got some insight. And he survived that recall election in California, even after it was clear what a bad governor he was. He knows a thing or two. He's a meticulous politician. And he's making a pivot now. His podcast is a big part of that. And even looking at his podcast, at the setup of it, I realized just how meticulous he is. Because his podcast, in its aesthetic, is directly copying the first successful politician podcast ever, a podcast that coincidentally I co-hosted for years, Verdict with Ted Cruz. With Verdict, when we set up that podcast, we made sure we had a certain kind of leather chair, that the seats were a certain distance apart. There was no table, there was no desk, it was not formal, it was this way, it was that way. We spent a long time crafting the aesthetic of that podcast. Gavin Newsom took it. Now that kind of aesthetic has become more common, but Gavin Newsom took it. And I know exactly how it happened. Newsom said, okay, I need to be more relatable. I need to be more likable. I need to reach people in a more intimate way, which is the reason for a politician to do a podcast in the first place. And so what's the most successful version of that? The most successful version of that kind of podcast is Verdict with Ted Cruz. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to reach across the aisle. I'm going to try to have people on from the popular, successful political movement, which is MAGA. That's why he had Charlie Kirk on as the first guest, followed shortly by Steve Bannon. Not even just regular Republicans, but people who are close to Trump, who have their finger on the pulse of MAGA. that's what I'm going to do, and it's going to work for me. And we'll see. It might work, but there is a civil war right now in the Democrat Party. So Newsom has carved out that lane. I'm going to be the centrist guy. On the other side, you have people like Tim Walz who come out and they say, well, in Tim Walz's case, he was doing a political rally with Beto O'Rourke. No better way to set yourself up to win an election than to campaign with a guy who is absolutely expert at losing elections that he's supposed to win. He goes out there, and Tim Walz's thesis is the reason the Democrats lost is not because they've gone too far to the left, not because they've gone too far to the extremes. No, it's because they're not woke enough.
Our strength is our diversity. We've been talking about this for years as a country of immigrants, and we let them define the issue on immigration. We let them define the issue on DEI, and we let them define what woke is. We got ourselves in this mess because we weren't bold enough to stand up and say, you damn right we're proud of these policies. We're going to put them in, and we're going to execute them.
Okay, so he says that the Democrats let the Republicans define the issue on immigration, define the issue on DEI, define the issue on all of these woke policy. What is wokeness? I just don't think that's true. It's the reason people turned against mass migration is not because Republicans define the issue. It's because they recognize that there are now 11 to 16 million foreigners in their country. And that's a conservative number. And they heard Joe Biden and the Democrats welcome them in, encourage them to come to the border. And they've seen that those migrants, many of whom have face tattoos and worship Satan and commit murders, and they realize that they're not good for the country. That's not Republicans' fault because they just defined an issue. Words, words, words. That's all it really comes down to. It's the underlying realities of Democrat policies that turned people against the Democrats. The Republicans defined DEI. No, you did. The definition of DEI that you put forward is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what that means is racial and sexual discrimination, notably against white men, but against other people to lesser degrees as well. And Americans don't like that. Americans voted for meritocracy or a colorblind society or any of the other ways that President Trump campaigned on it. You can like that, you can hate that, you can think there are problems with that, but that's what the American people voted for. It's not because Republicans define the issue. Republicans define the issue on wokeness. No, you're the ones who forced the big husky dudes into the girls' changing room. We didn't define that issue. It is just a reality that people turned against. And so what does Tim Walz say? Based on his mistaken premise that the Democrats just let Republicans, hypnotize people with their rhetoric and propaganda. He's taking the Howard Dean approach. When Howard Dean took over the DNC in the mid-2000s, he said, we're not going to pivot. We've been losing elections. We're not going to pivot to the center. We're going to move further to the left. And it actually did work for the Democrats because Bush became unpopular, because the Iraq War became unpopular. I don't know that that's going to work here. We'll see. I guess if there's a recession, if wars get worse, not better, in Ukraine and Gaza, if Trump's policies fail, then in fairness to Tim Walz, this might work. But I'm pretty skeptical. The American people voted against specific issues, notably wokeness, DEI, and open borders. It's going to be really hard to change that. However, I might be probably the only person on the American right who is giving any credence to what Tim Walz is saying here. The circumstances are somewhat similar. You had Bush winning the popular vote as a Republican in 2004. That was the last time that happened until Trump, 2024. And Republicans looked really, really popular. And then within 2 years, we were getting completely blown out of the water, in part because of a pivot from the Democrats to the far left. That's what Tim Walz is proposing here. And that's the debate. The debate is Tim Walz versus Gavin Newsom. Two old white guys. Not very diverse, equitable, and inclusive, but there you have it. Now I want to tell you about Done with Debt. Go to donewithdebt.com. There's a lot of talk about government debt. Our national debt is $35 trillion. After 4 years of inflation, the real crisis is personal debt. It is possible you are working harder than ever and still struggling with credit card debt and overdue bills. That's why you need Done with Debt. If you're tired of feeling trapped by debt, the team at Done With Debt offers smart, effective strategies to help you pay off what you owe faster. Break free from the cycle. Keep more of your hard-earned money in your pocket. Done With Debt doesn't try to sell you a loan or bankruptcy. Their tough negotiators go one-on-one with your credit card and loan companies with one goal: to drastically reduce your bills, eliminate interest, and erase penalties. Most clients end up with more money in their pocket month one, and they don't stop until they break you free from debt. Take a few minutes, visit donewithdebt.com. Talk with one of their strategists. It is free. But keep in mind, some of their solutions are time sensitive, so you'll need to move quickly. Go to donewithdebt.com. That is donewithdebt.com. Don't let debt be any more of a burden on your life. Go to donewithdebt.com. You know, my favorite comment on Friday is from Teeny McLean 3930, who says, Michael, are you going to react to the new Tom MacDonald song that you are in? Oh, I suppose I should, shouldn't I? If you haven't caught the new Tom MacDonald song, your boy does in fact make an appearance. More importantly, my ukulele finally makes an appearance. And in it, I do a strum that was popularized by George Formby, and it looks really, really silly. So anyway, you can go check. Maybe I should react to it. I don't know. I can at least critique the beautiful ukulele playing in it. Now, turning from the Democrats to Trump, the latest freak out du jour, NBC News, sounding the alarm. Trump won't rule out seeking a third term in the White House. Tells NBC News, quote, there are methods for doing so. I'll just read a little bit from the article. Washington. President Trump did not rule out the possibility of seeking a third term in the White House, which is prohibited by the Constitution under the 22nd Amendment, saying in an exclusive interview with NBC News that there were methods for doing so and clarifying that he was not joking. A lot of people want me to do it, Trump said in a Sunday morning phone call with NBC News, referring to his allies. But I basically tell them we have a long way to go, you know. It's very early in the administration. I'm focused on the current, Trump said. When asked whether he wanted another term, the president responded, I like working. I'm not joking. But I'm not. It is far too early to think about it. I love Trump so much. I love that this big breaking news, this exclusive interview, is that Trump just picks up the phone in the wee small hours. And he's like, all right, I'm just going to call NBC, make them freak out this week. I'm going to set the news cycle for the week right now. Yeah, you know, third term, that'd be wacky, huh? No, I'm not joking. Why not? I like working. What is this about? Is Trump going to abolish the 22nd Amendment? Probably not, though it's worth pointing out that Ronald Reagan advocated for that. There are many very serious, principled conservatives who think that term limits are a bad idea for the presidency. But is that what Trump's going to do? I would be surprised. This is about Trump not being a lame duck. This is about the central tactic of Trump in politics, which is unpredictability, which is seeming like a madman, so that when you tell Vladimir Putin that if he invades Ukraine, you're going to bomb the Kremlin, Putin thinks 95% chance you don't do it, but 5% chance maybe you will do it, and you can't take that chance, which is why Putin doesn't invade further into Ukraine when Trump is president. That's what this is about. This is about the Democrats right now are looking at Trump. They're saying, this guy's a lame duck. He's term limited out. He can't possibly run again. And then Trump calls in the wee small, wakes up some reporters at NBC News, says, yeah, what if I ran for a third term, huh? You can't do that. I don't know. Maybe I can. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, bye. That's what this is about. And it works. It kind of works. Because 95% chance Trump would not challenge the 22nd Amendment. 95% chance Trump has served long enough and would maybe like to have a little bit of a retirement at the end of his life. But I don't know, 5% chance, man, I don't know, maybe. And so the libs are on their toes, and Trump remains an active president, even in a term that from day one should have been a lame duck term. It is just masterful political work. Then, even better trolling from Trump, President Trump was asked in the Oval Office the question that defines our decade, the question that most people should be sick of talking about at this point, but it still gets under the skin of Democrats. He was asked, what is a woman? And he gave a better answer than I have heard from virtually any, even conservative.
Since Democrats seem to struggle answering this question, I wanted to ask you, what is a woman and why is it important that we understand the difference between men and women?
Well, it's sort of easy to answer for me because a woman is somebody that can have a baby under certain circumstances. She has a quality. A woman is a person who's much smarter than a man. I've always doesn't give a man even a chance of success. And a woman is a person that in many cases has been treated very badly, because I think that what happens with this crazy issue of men being able to play in women's sports is just ridiculous and very unfair to women and very demeaning to women. And that's got to be about a 94%. I read today it was a 94% issue. And the other day, I watched a congressman, a well-known Democrat congressman, fighting for the fact that men should be allowed to compete, essentially, in women's sports.
This is a beautiful answer, and it's much better than the answer conservatives give. Well, the liberals say a woman is whatever. A woman is the sort of person who says that he or she is a woman. If you call yourself a woman, you're a woman. That's obviously ridiculous. But then the conservative response is, no. A woman is someone with 2 X chromosomes. A woman is an adult female human being. Boom. But that's not even sufficient. Trump's answer is much better than the usual conservative answer, because Trump's answer is a woman, first thing out of his mouth, a woman is a person who can bear a child under certain circumstances. Even that under certain circumstances is so beautiful. His answer is a natural law answer. He's saying, not that a woman can be reduced to her biology, but that a woman is at least her biology and also her telos, also her purpose. Also, she's the kind of person who can have a child under certain circumstances. So Trump is even acknowledging there are plenty of women who are infertile, or whether because of some makeup that has been, some aspect of their physical makeup that has been part of them since birth, or because of some accident down the road, or because they get a little older, or whatever. But he's saying, in principle, a woman is the sort of person who can bear a child. And then what's the second answer? He goes, and a woman's the sort of person who's a lot smarter than men, that's for sure. Now, that answer, this is going to confuse some people who don't understand pizzazz, panache, riz, also who don't understand the kind of little jokes that go on between the sexes, also someone who doesn't understand chivalry. Trump is not giving a feminist answer. The feminist would say, women are much smarter than men. Trump's saying, women, they're so much smarter than men. That's a chivalrous answer. It's not that women are actually smarter than men. In fact, if you look at, the one study, I think it was Larry Summers had this study when he was at Harvard, shows that women and men have basically the same median IQ, but the smartest people on earth are men. Also, the stupidest people on earth are men, because the bell curve distribution for men is wider than the bell curve distribution for women. But even beyond that, a woman, what Trump is demonstrating with that answer is, a woman is the sort of person who is taken care of by men, who is treated gently by men, chivalrously even. And a woman is the sort of person who's been treated very unfairly by liberalism, by leveling feminism, by this ideology that says that by embracing transgenderism, there is not even such a category as woman. That is a robust answer. And it is why I've said this for years, and I'm totally right, and my critics are totally wrong. And Trump's critics are totally wrong. When they say, Trump is stupid, Trump is unsophisticated, Trump doesn't understand political philosophy, Trump doesn't. I say, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever read books on gender theory. I don't know if he's ever read books on anthropology. I don't know how deeply he's studied into human nature or the natural law, but he just gave a better answer than basically any conservative has when asked that question. Because to say that a woman is just 2X chromosomes or an adult female human being is to make one of the same errors that the liberals make, which led them to force transgenderism on us in the first place, which is to say, to reduce human nature to some partial aspect of what it is. No. A woman is at least her body, but she's also what she does. She's also her telos. She's everything from her chromosomes to the kind of person who wears beautiful dresses and bakes pies. It's all of those things. Guy gets it, man. The guy's got a greater depth of conservatism than many people who sit in dusty think tanks all day and read books. Now, let's turn away from talking about your office. Let's talk about your home. Let's talk about Home Title Lock. Go to HomeTitleLock.com. Use promo code Knowles250. Did you know that scammers can steal your home right out from under you? The FBI calls this house stealing. It's a growing real estate scam targeting American homeowners. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on one document, use a fake notary stamp, pay a small fee, and file it with your local recorder's office. Just like that, your home title has been transferred out of your name. Then they can take out loans using your equity as collateral or even sell the property behind your back. You won't even know that it's happening to you until you start getting the collection or foreclosure notices. So let me ask you, when was the last time you checked your home title? If the answer was like me when I first heard of Home Title Lock, if the answer is never, then you need to go get a hold on this, okay? That's what the scammers are counting on. That is why I trust Home Title Lock. Someone very, very close to me actually was scammed by a fraudster, took this person's home equity. It's a horrible, horrible thing. I mean, Dante puts these kinds of fraudsters in the lowest circle of hell. Okay, so protect yourself from them. Their $1 million triple lock protection keeps your home and equity safe. What you get is immediate 24/7 monitoring of your property, urgent alerts if there are any changes, and if fraud should happen, their US-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix the fraud. Right now, you can go to HomeTitleLock.com, use code Knowles250. You will get a free title history report so that you can easily figure out if you're already a victim and access your personal title expert, a $250 value just for signing up. Go to HomeTitleLock.com, use code Knowles250, or click the link in the description. Go check it out right now. HomeTitleLock.com, code Knowles250. Okay, little warning. I'm not sure if you're totally aware of it. Global trade as we know it might end in 2 days. It's April 2nd, not April 1st. I think Trump was thinking about doing it on April 1st. He said, but I don't want anyone to be confused and think it's April Fool's Day and not be unsure of what we're going to do here. The fact is, though, everyone is unsure of what Trump is going to do here because Trump is promising to implement major tariffs on our global trading partners. And according to reporting, widespread reporting, no one really knows what he's going to do. In fact, this article from the Daily Mail, those tasked with implementing his agenda admit they're uncertain. Behind closed doors, top administration officials are deeply concerned, with many quietly admitting they are unsure what the president is actually going to do. No one knows what the F is going on. One White House ally close to Trump's inner circle told Politico, the president has signaled that more than $1 trillion in trade could be affected, but with less than a week to go, even the most basic details, including which countries will be hit, at what rates, and for which goods, remain undecided or constantly shifting. You know, I'm skeptical of media reports, especially about the Trump administration. This one, I totally believe. I totally believe it because I was at the White House 4 days ago or something, 5 days ago, and I spoke with the Secretary of the Treasury. You can catch our interview on the Michael Knowles YouTube channel and elsewhere, DailyWire Plus, X. I asked the Treasury Secretary, I said, what is the top priority for the tariffs? Is it raising revenue? Is it creating manufacturing jobs? Or is it to be a negotiating tool to lower trade barriers with our partners? Any of which might be good, but which are in conflict with each other. So which is it? And the Treasury Secretary gave me a very intelligent, clever answer, which didn't really answer the question. He restated the question, and then he said, we'll find out on April 2nd. You know, it's the president's decision to make. We will find out on April 2nd. So I totally believe it. I pay very close attention to the Trump administration. I don't know what he's going to do because I don't even really know what his top priority for the tariffs are. He's floated all of the different desirable outcomes that could come from tariffs, but he hasn't honed in on one in particular. So I totally believe this report. Now, the libs are reporting this and they're saying, this is chaos, this is terrible, this is a horrible idea. See, this is why Trump shouldn't be president. I'm just marveling at the guy's consistency on his chief political strength, which is unpredictability. There are top administration officials today who do not know what Trump is going to do in 2 days that could affect $1 trillion worth of trade. You could look at that and say, that's a sign of chaos. That's crazy. That's a terrible idea. Or you could look at it, as Trump has bragged for years now, as a sign of political strength. This guy has everyone on their toes. Now, if I had to guess, if I were a gambling man, and I were gambling not with $1 trillion worth of trade, but with a little bit of my own money, I think this is part of a negotiation to reduce trade barriers overseas. That would be my guess. But I don't know for sure. I guess we'll have to see. Now, speaking of Trump and global trade, President Trump did just address the Houthi bombing boys chat. That's a little bit of a tease. We might have to get to that later because my friend Lila Rose is coming on. First, though, America's on the comeback. The fight for truth is far from over. While the left tries desperately to keep its grip on media, education, and the courts, DailyWire is leading the charge for free speech, fearless journalism, and the values that made our country great. Now is the time to join us. Stream my show ad-free and watch along with my producers in the chat. Plus, get exclusive content you won't find anywhere else. Access premium entertainment, join a community of thinkers, not followers. Watch anytime, anywhere on desktop, mobile, and TV with the DailyWire Plus app. Do not just watch the culture war happen around you. Be part of the movement. Subscribe now at dailywire.com/subscribe. As we see all these sorts of changes, tectonic shifts in politics, all the way down to affecting $1 trillion of global trade. On the domestic front, we've seen big changes to education. I just sat down with Linda McMahon, the Secretary of Education. You're seeing maybe the dismantling of the Department of Education. Below the federal level, at the state level, well, actually, the dismantling of the Department of Education, the whole purpose of that is to shift education back to the states. At the state level, you are seeing lots of good, positive action being taken. It's not just getting rid of bad Democrat regulations. It's not just trying to dig through all the bureaucracy and the ugly curricula that poison kids' minds, but it's actually now implementing good things that will actually edify students. Being led in part by my friend Lila Rose. You know Lila, she is the head of Live Action, one of the most prominent pro-life voices in America, and is the driving force behind the Baby Olivia prenatal education bill, which puts pro-life content into public schools. It's already in my state of Tennessee, it's already in North Dakota, and it just passed into its third state of Idaho. Lila, thank you for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Michael. Good to see you.
So, Lila, it's always wonderful to see you. The libs are going to say that this is an outrageous incursion. This probably violates the separation of church and state because all you pro-lifers are crazy religious people. And they're going to say that this is putting propaganda in schools to push a particular view of sex and sexual education, and it's unconstitutional. What's your response?
I mean, they have all said this, and it's wild because Baby Olivia is this medically accurate. So it's created with scientists, with OBGYNs, with medical doctors. It's this medically accurate, lifelike. So it's been animated by world-class animators, depiction of life from the beginning, from fertilization. That's when science says a new individual human comes into existence until birth. So when we've seen the backlash over the last year, people so upset on the left that there's now going to be science-based education about human development for young people, which is what they deserve in science class, biology class, sex ed class. And they're upset about it. It really makes you wonder who's on the side of science now. Clearly not the far left when it comes to anything that shows the humanity of the baby. And it was so crazy, Michael, because there's this one particular reporter, and I think it was in your great state of Tennessee, who was really mad about Baby Olivia being put in the public schools and education of human development being put in the public schools. And they said, this is humanizing the baby. This is too humanizing of the fetus or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, they're human. This is how we all started our life as humans in our mother's womb. So we're excited. It's a new dawn for science-based education for young people. And I think there's no better way to show the beauty of the baby in the womb than actually getting to look at what this baby looks like as they're developing.
There's something very funny, obviously, about the reporter saying, hey, the more you show us what is happening biologically in the womb, the more the baby appears to be humanized. And you say, well, correct, it's a human. Yes, that's why. But even beyond the science angle, that's always the low ground that the libs want to talk about, though their scientific theories are pretty crazy, like the sun monster destroying the world and, boys becoming girls or whatever. They ground all of their arguments in science, and they say, we need to get your morality out of the classroom. We need to get your religious kind of propaganda out of the classroom. And I guess my answer to that is, why? I took sex ed class in my New York public school, and I was told that we should use condoms. I was told that people should embrace various aberrant sexual behaviors. That's a moral teaching. It's an immoral teaching, I guess, but it's teaching about morality, about ethics. It has a religious underpinning, albeit one that is irreligious or comes from a false religion. So all of that stuff is already in schools. What's the problem with coming in and saying, okay, well, if you're already teaching morality, you're already teaching ethics, you already have a religious foundation, we're just going to teach a more accurate one, a truer one that's more conducive to human flourishing. What are they going to say to that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's an incoherent ideology that the culture of death, the kind of pro-abortion, pro-sexual experimentation, sex doesn't belong in marriage. It really, as long as there's consent, have as much sex or whatever kind of sex you want. That's not a really very coherent worldview, but it is a worldview, and it does have its own moral code, which violates the truth about how human beings should live together in harmony together in a society. We know that when it comes to sex, the best order for sex is in a loving marriage where two people are committed to each other for life. But this Baby Olivia legislation, they're not even doing that. This isn't even, promoting chastity overtly or any kind of specific moral code. It's literally, Michael, all it is watching content that shows medically accurate depictions of human life and learning about the markers of human development. That is all that this legislation and other bills like it do. It doesn't even go that extra step of inferring now, it's a human life, so it has human rights. We shouldn't kill babies. Like, that's not even part of the overt education. It's just, this is a human life. And that is what is causing so much outrage by some folks on the left. Although I will say I am encouraged, this bill that just passed in Idaho that is based on Baby Olivia, there were Democrats that voted for it. So there are some sane people left, on both sides of the aisle here. But yeah, I mean, the reality is the moral order, which shows that, human beings are different than the rest of the animal kingdom. Sex has a particular purpose. That's procreation and unity, brings two people together. All of this it's true. And yeah, I agree. That should absolutely be taught in the public school system. I mean, it's the truth.
What's so fascinating to me about the left-wing pushback on this legislation, which, as you say, is so modest. I mean, it's just saying, hey, while you're talking about pregnancy, we're going to show you what it really looks like. That's all it says. That's all.
Yes.
But the left-wing pushback, it seems to me, belies a lack of confidence in a central dogma of modernity and liberalism, which is the distinction between is and ought. The notion that we cannot possibly observe things in the world and then come to moral conclusions about them for how we ought to behave. There are two human beings. They ought to live in society. They ought to get married. They ought to have children. That's just something that comes from their human nature. Modernity says, nah, we're all just kind of big bags of stuff, and you can't ever come to any conclusions. Just do whatever you want, man. If it feels good, do it, and don't yuck my yum. And that's been a central dogma of liberalism. But of course, they don't really believe it, because they have all sorts of moral prescriptions. And
Right.
I think the way that they come to their false moral prescriptions is by lying about how things really are. So the moral prescription that if a woman becomes pregnant, but she doesn't want to take care of her baby, she should just murder her baby. The way that they persuade people of that, which is so wrong and immoral, is by lying and saying, it's not really a baby. It's a clump of cells. It's sort of like a parasite. It's no big deal. You're not really killing anything. So it's all lies about what is in order to come to a wrong ought conclusion. If you're so afraid that seeing the true nature of things is going to dissuade people from following your prescriptions, maybe that means your prescriptions are wrong.
Well, it's like no kid is born supporting abortion, right? If you ask any child about a pregnancy, like they have a little sibling coming to the world, and I have 3 kids. I know you have 3, and they're so excited, the older children, that mama is pregnant and there's going to be a baby. I mean, any child, you ask them about the idea of pregnancy, or you tell them about the idea of pregnancy, it's like Christmas morning for them. So this idea that as a child gets older, they need to become more pro-abortion because the left is like, well, we got to do something with these kids that are also naturally pro-life and excited about life. We have to sort of derange their thinking. In order to do that, they need to put these overt political ideologies in the classroom, and that's what effectively has been happening. I mean, that is the current state of sexual education. Planned Parenthood rules, the biggest pro-abortion group in the country right now. They rule sex education in the classroom. So keep that context in mind here when we have Baby Olivia legislation going through. Planned Parenthood is in most classrooms today that are public schools, and they're pushing this postmodern woke ideology around sex and life that is brainwashing a generation of students. So this is one effort to push back against that craziness.
Well, I think it's beautiful. I think the success here is beautiful. The Baby Olivia project itself is really quite beautiful to show people what's going on in the womb. A campaign of live action that I strongly encourage you all to go and check out. But 3 states, I say, that's a very good start, and I look forward to the other 47 following soon. Who knows? If we get Canada and Greenland, then another 49.
There's 19 states considering this year. So hopefully we'll end strong this year. We'll see where it all lands. But there's some Democrats we've got to persuade. But thankfully, there have been a few that are persuadable. So we'll see where it lands.
I love it. Lila Rose, go check out all of Lila Rose's shows and speeches, and go to Live Action and give your money to Live Action and support all of this so that we get it in all, by the time Trump is done, I don't know, 59, 65 states. We'll see what we got. Thank you, Lila. Thank you to all of you. It's wonderful to be with all of you. Now, we will be going to the Membrum Segmentum because I've been traveling and it's been a huge hassle and I've had to miss 1 or 2 Membra Segmenta. However, today we're doing it. It's Music Monday. The show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.